This is an AVNation special. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. What we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at ecosystems and partnerships between manufacturers. And that's something that the industry has certainly really honed in on in the last couple of years. With us to talk about that and their ecosystem is Rich Ventura from Sony. Welcome, sir.
Oh, thanks for always having us part of these things.
Absolutely, sir. Andrew Gilden. Andrew is from Corbett. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Tom Pinella. Tom is from AppSpace. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And a gentleman I have known for a very long time. I'm not going to call him an old friend because neither one of us are old. Bob Babalka from Crestron. Welcome, sir.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Good to see you. So, Rich, I'm going to start with you. We're going to talk about the Sony ecosystem today and the partnerships that you have. All three of these guys are representative of various partners that Sony has. But when you look at it and you hear the phrase ecosystem or ecosystem partner or ecosystem integration, what does that mean to Sony?
So, it's interesting when it's hard to believe it's been, almost 5.5 years now since I came over.
Yep.
And during that time, when I first started, one of the first things I looked at is we can't do all this by ourselves. There's so much lifting you have to do in the industry. And really, any manufacturer who says we can do everything ourselves is really not looking in the mirror.
Okay.
And I don't care if you're a hardware, software, it doesn't matter. And so when we started this conversation, I said, how do we build a Sony army? And an army has many different components to it. We have our people, we have our products, we have our integrators, we have our end users, we have all this stuff. But we also, who are those partners that we really can do good things together with? And to be able to sit down and talk to a customer and say, what are your pain points? What are you trying to solve? What are you trying to overcome? What are those challenges? And then to be able to say, you know what, I've got the perfect partner for you, or partners in some cases, that is going to help you. Because we can't do it alone, and I'm never going to say we can. So to me, the ecosystem, the alliances, all the different words you can call it, are all about how we make the industry better, how we make the solutions better, how we make each other better as manufacturers. How do we make it so that our customers can solve their pain points, our integrators can solve our customers' pain points, and really move the industry forward? Whether it's an integration, whether it's an alignment, whether it's storytelling together and delivering a solution. But it's really that. It's about moving everything forward and delivering the right solutions, solving the pain points with the right tools instead of just throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall.
All right, Bob, same kind of question is one of the things there is the right solution. So when you hear ecosystem, what does that mean to you?
So Crestron has an open partner ecosystem, right? We can only be successful by virtue of these partnerships, right? So partnering with Sony is among, if not our most strategic display partner. That's the endpoint. A lot of our solutions are video distribution.
Yep.
Signage, Teams, UC collaboration. You don't have any of that without a display. So partnering very close with Sony, they do the investment of embedding a lot of the control stack and remote management, which is not an easy lift. That's at the firmware level, so that every display can automatically be recognized and come online in a Crestron ecosystem. And then it's everything after that, right? So control and management, remote management is just only one piece of that. How we bring in a premium user experience, whether it be through Zoom, Teams, BYOD, digital signage. So these partnerships are instrumental for us to succeed and satisfy our end clients' wants and needs.
Andrew?
On the Corbett side, when we think about our partner ecosystem, we think about this of how are we solving our customers' business objectives? Do we have the solutions, whether that, again, be we partner with Sony and Crestron, right? Do we have the digital signage player? Do we have the meeting room hardware? Do we, within that, also have the integrations to any other enterprise systems that this customer has that's going to need to drive digital signage? And it's going to need to work. It's going to need to be plug and play, and it's going to need to be dynamic. As those customers, right, as the world as people expect their B2B solutions to be more B2B centric, right? They expect things to just work. We need to make sure that the digital signage that we're providing them and the digital signage that they're utilizing just works. And we need that partner ecosystem to be able to drive that.
All right, Tom?
Yeah, from AppSpace's perspective, we have always just core to our DNA from the beginning of AppSpace as a company, we focused on making sure we were building bridges, not walls. And so, I think Rich made a very good point that there are some organizations out there that their strategy is to be a one-stop shop and try to do everything for an organization and create kind of that walled garden. From the onset, we knew that was a failing proposition. And really, people were going to look for best of breed, and they were going to look for things that were best for what their security posture was, their price point, for their specific objectives. And that meant that they were going to have lots of different technologies inside their enterprise or their university or whatever it might be. And so we made a very conscious choice to decide to follow that shift in the market and shift in the industry. And so we partnered with lots of ecosystem partners, but certainly, Crestron we were the first to really go out to Crestron and say, let's work on those scheduling tablets. And then that led to lots of different things that we do with Crestron in particular. And with Sony, of course, we run on their displays. So that way, really, if we didn't do that, no one would be able to use our platform at all. So it's actually vital to the success of our customers that we're able to run on as many things as possible in their environment. So ecosystem is everything for AppSpace. Literally, without it, we would not survive.
Rich, you said something there at the beginning. It says we can't make everything. And I think that's an important point there, because when you look at your ecosystem and your products as you guys evolve, how do you balance the innovation that you're doing inside your own products with what your partners are innovating with, and they're asking for more or you're asking for more from them? How do you guys balance that give and take?
Yeah, I think part of it is the level of transparency and relationships we have with our ecosystem is critical.
Okay.
I'll use a really easy example, and Bob always likes to crack this joke. I think I was at Sony day 2, and I called Bob and said, we got to make this happen, period. Right? Period. It was like my second day at Sony. We got to make this happen. I've had similar conversations with CEOs at AppSpace and Corbett. How do we make this happen? And, those who know me well know I'm very transparent about my strategy, direction, and business and what we want to do. But transparency is everything. I'm a firm believer that the role of the display manufacturer is to show the beautiful pictures, to be able to be controlled by multiple platforms, be able to display platforms, make it easier for software to run on our product. We're hardware manufacturers. We're not software companies, right? Our job shouldn't be to make a CMS. Our job should be to make the tools that make the CMSs work even better. And so part of that is having those frank conversations and transparent conversations with a partner and say, what's our gap? And how can we help bridge the gap? How can you help bridge the gap? And you look at tools like our APIs, and how do we make our APIs even easier for them to communicate to? How do we make it so that our displays can fall into control systems that give you a single pane of glass? How do our displays make it easier? Let's go away from the software for a second. How do our displays make it easier to be installed? Right? How do we make it so that an integrator and a customer can have a display up and running in 5 to 7 minutes versus our competition where it could take 30 to 40 minutes? Time's money for everybody, right? Yeah. How do we make it so that our CMS partners can have their applications running seamlessly on our products, get them installed, side-loaded, or through apps, however it's done, quick and fast, but also be cognizant of our software partners might need a more robust media player that our SoC may not, for some reason, support. How do we support that? How do we make sure if they need AI tools, if they've got an AI engine, how do we make sure that our display can support the AI analytics engine while maybe they run their CMS separately? That's what it's all about, right? Is really having those frank conversations. I think every partner I've heard it from has been very happy with the way that we've approached it, and not saying, hey, we're going to build this and you got to build around us, because that's being a little arrogant, in my opinion. Instead is, what do we need to build together to make it so your platform is extremely strong on our platform?
Part of this what makes this successful is Crestron, we actually learned from our partners, right? We went to Sony when we have a device called AirMedia, right? That provides BYOD conferencing, wireless presentation, and digital signage. We asked Sony, help us rank who the digital signage, the top companies are we should be focusing on. We don't do this in a vacuum, right? It was partnering with them that we standardized. And that's why we have Corbett and AppSpace among the two applications that are out of the gate supported on that product. We have our remote management platform, XIO Cloud. We listen to Sony. We have a roadmap. We're going to be introducing some advanced features in that, hopefully midpoint next year. And it was because of listening to Sony and what do we need to provide the end clients? What are they hearing that drives our roadmaps? These are investments in our product strategy that we just can't guess at, right? I will tell you, I'm with Rich's team on a weekly basis. Our engineers are talking on a weekly basis about what to deliver, how to deliver it, and all that. So same thing with Andrew and Tom. Their teams are constantly, our product engineers for Air Media are constantly on the phone with them. Our scheduling platforms, we're constantly making sure we've got the right APIs or access in place and that we're prioritizing who we go to market with. Because we know our end clients want these brands. They want these integrations.
I think, one of the things too is, Tim, back to what you're asking about, like, where do you draw the line as far as wanting to do as much as you can for your customers because they're asking you for it, but then also knowing when to stop and say, that's just not our core competency. And we're not going to force you to do something where there's better options out there. And I think that comes down to knowing what it is, what's your vision and your mission as an organization. That's the stuff that you focus on and you make really, really well. And you do it better than anyone else or as best you can, right? And then the stuff on the margin, you have to understand that's where you go and partner and you don't go out and compete. And then even within your core competency, you've got to bet on yourself and say, listen, we're going to give our customers choice and we're not going to force parts of our platform onto them. So an example of that would be, there's a large financial services company that's leveraging Crestron scheduling tablets with AppSpace, but they're not leveraging our calendaring backend for that because we gave them the choice. We said, if you want to continue with what you have today, we're not going to force you to do that. We'll build a bridge, build an integration versus making you make a really painful decision day one. And so we burn calories to do that for the customer at cost to us. And that's just part of deciding, what are you going to do? Are you going to bet on yourself and give people the choice? And sometimes it may go against you. And that's what being an ecosystem partner, I think, is about, is saying, we're going to build the best product we can, but we're always going to err on the side of giving people flexibility because that's what Sony affords their customers. That's what Crestron affords their customers. And that's what AppSpace and Corbett do. So I think that's an interesting thing that we've learned. And I think that's part of just mirroring yourself off of good partners. And that ultimately benefits end users more than anybody.
I think at the end of the day, right, partnership is a two-way street, right? So that transparency is important to that, right? Both Corbett and AppSpace, right, are on the call today, and we both know that we're both working with a lot of those same partners. But I think to Rich's point, right, it's really about the use case the customer is asking for. If they are looking for something that's beyond what the system on chip platform is going to provide, we can work with them, and he sees that, but also he mentioned those APIs. We've been working really closely with the Sony team. We heard from our customers, they wanted to streamline that process of getting their digital signage provisioned on that SoC player quickly. So we work with that team. We work closely with them from a technical perspective to be able to make that API integration and listen to those customers and be able to drive the business outcomes that they're really looking for.
And Tim, I want to add one more piece to this whole thing is we also listen. Yeah. And we've evolved our entire portfolio. If you look at where Sony Pro Bravias were at 5.5 years ago when I started and where we are today and what's coming in the very near future, you can tell we listen to our end users, our integrators, our consultants, and all of our partners. Because without them, we'd be operating in a box that I could tell you we'd have a pink display with sparkly, shiny stuff all around it. Wouldn't work, right? We have to listen to the market. VOC, voice of customer, at all levels is so critical for what we do. And I don't use the term partner very lightly. Partners mean blood to me. That means there are companies that I'm going to stand up in front of a customer and tell them, this is who we recommend, this, and this is why. and this is how it's going to solve your pain point. And by the way, if you pull that out of the equation, this solution doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to go back and figure it out. And that's really critical. And that's where it's so important. When you see companies working closely, I don't care who they are. When you see companies working closely, we're doing it so that we can deliver the best solutions out there for the customers. And it's based on the needs and the pain points our customers present to us all.
That's really awesome. Several of you talked about listening and the connections, and not just the voice of the customer feedback, but also feedback from each other. One thing that not just AI, but also analyzing use cases and the way customers are using their own spaces as well as your gear and your software. What role do you see data and data analytics playing in providing even more customer feedback that's, let's be frank, isn't biased, right? Data is data. So, Tom, we'll start with you. Where are we at with leveraging some of that honest to God, real data feedback in providing even more value to these partnerships?
Well, I'll look at it from the end user perspective out. So at AppSpace, we collect billions of data points about how people interact with content, interact with communications, interact with the workplace. And that data is going to be more and more meaningful with AI. And so I do think that there is a really clear kind of focus from us about how do we put that data to work on behalf of the end user, as opposed to putting it the onus on the end user to kind of make sense of it. And so one of the things that's going to be really interesting is organizations that like AppSpace and others that are capturing data points about the customer's use of a product or engagement with a product. How can they take that data and basically anonymize it so there's no issues with identity, and then use that for benchmarking? So I think it's interesting. I think a lot of our end users come to us and say we want to get more out of what we're paying AppSpace for, right? We think that there's more to unlock and get more value. How can we do that? Obviously, we have an army of people that are doing that every day with our customers. But if we could point to actual data and saying, relative to companies that look like you in this industry, you actually are underperforming in these certain areas, and you could be driving more engagement if you did these things, or you could have a more efficient workplace if you did X, Y, and Z. That's absolutely going to be a reality. Like that is happening as we're talking right now. So I think taking data and using it for benchmarking is going to be really, really important. And I think that's something that's going to start happening very soon, and will change the paradigm of how all of us on this call interact with our end users and make sure they're getting the most value out of our solutions.
Rich, same question. Where are we at with making sure that you guys are able to see what the customers are actually doing with the various technologies as well as the hardware?
So those who work closely with my team know we are data junkies. We use I don't know any manufacturers that, on the hardware side that use data the way we do. At all times, we need to know, why do buyers buy?
Yeah. How
do they use the product, right? And not just why end users buy, but why does a higher education university buy a 98-inch display, and how do they use it, and all those stuff, right? So we have to understand those things. And so we dive down to, very similar to what Tom was saying, looking at use cases and things like that, but we dive down and understand by vertical market, by application, even regionality, believe it or not, because there are regions who use things a little differently. Yeah. We understand those things. So that allows us to, make sure, are we optimizing our technology the right way? Are we optimizing the future tech the right way? Are we working with the right partners that help us optimize our technology the right way? Are we conveying the right information? Are we delivering the right tools? All that stuff. And that's been something I'm very proud that we've been doing that since I started, because we really had to change the mentality of a display is a display is a display, and the mentality that people buy displays because of brightness and because of size. That's not the case. They buy it because it has to do this, this, this. These are the four most important jobs in a education for a display. do we meet those? If we don't, what do we need to do to fix that problem, right? So we use that information. The team the team in Tokyo collects ungodly amount of information from our sales organization and from our customers directly and our integrators on what they need. And we do work with a lot of key consultants who also pull that information for us as well. So we spend a lot of time understanding that so we can execute properly.
Yeah, data is a huge part of Corbett's heritage, right? From a digital signage perspective, pulling data from different enterprise sources, visualizing that data, driving the content based upon data, and really driving that, whether that be in a retail bank, a contact center, or, in a workplace. But when you look at that as the workplace continues to evolve, right, especially over the last 5 years and even more so over the last 2 years, companies are trying to figure this out, and they're looking to us to be that trusted advisor and that guidance as to how they should be utilizing workplace solutions and communicating to their employees. So now it's about pulling in data from sensors to be able to give our customers context on what content is being engaged with, then helping them with AI and machine learning to say, okay, this is the content that's being engaged with based upon metadata, based upon algorithms. This is the type of content you should be using, and helping them push that to their employees or their customers or employees of their customers so that they can better utilize our platform. And then, to everybody's point, right? We all have so much data nowadays, right? It's really about our teams being able to take that data, analyze that data, and bring that back to our customer base and say, this is how you should be utilizing our platform. These are the best practices. This is what we recommend. I think more than ever, customers are really looking for us to be that trusted, looking for all of the people on this call to be that trusted advisor and guide them and be prescriptive and consultative, as opposed to saying, here are some features. These features are better than somebody else's features. You should go use them. They want to know, here's our platform, here's what we recommend, and here's how you use that platform with our partnerships to drive the business outcomes and the objectives that your executives, right, are looking for, whether that be top line revenue, reducing risk, or reducing cost.
Bob, same kind of question. How is Crestron leveraging the data that you guys are getting and sharing that between partnerships?
Okay, so I'm gonna answer the question on data. It's our remote management platform, our XIO cloud. We're obviously connected with all Crestron devices, third-party devices. We get intelligence as well, and we can know what displays are enabled with what with XIO cloud, which clients are paying a license to get that remote management capability, what signage applications are being selected within our Air Media appliance, for example, to run. So we can get that data. I want to back it up a little bit and say we're not the content providers, right? Crestron has this initiative. We're about our 3 C's: content, collaboration, and control, right? So we have solutions that hit those 3 buckets, right? On the content side, it would be our Air Media solution. We're trying to remove the complexity. I think Tom and Andrew had mentioned organizations are coming back in the office, right? They're going to need displays. They're going to need collaboration solutions. One of the things that Crestron's working very closely right now with Sony, AppSpace, and Corbin on is what I like to call an out-of-the-box turnkey collaboration bundle, right? Take a Sony Pro Bravia, take a Crestron Air Media, and you now have a solution that traditionally you wouldn't throw technology dollars into, say, a huddle space, an open collaboration area in a hallway with a few chairs outside of a meeting room, put a 55 or 65-inch display there. And guess what? Now you have a non-licensed solution for Teams or Zoom, BYOD, right? Any platform. When that display is blank, run content. AppSpace and Corbin are providing 90 days complimentary digital signage up to 5 endpoints on a Sony Pro Bravia with Crestron Air Media. Anybody who buys Air Media gets to try those signage applications. We know on day 91, the client's going to say, hey, continue my subscription. This works. I didn't have to throw a ton of money. I didn't have to buy a UC solution for this room. And I've enabled collaboration in a space I traditionally wouldn't have thought of putting money into. So once that happens, Crestron can go into our platform and say, okay, how many licenses of Corbit or AppSpace or any other applications being run. And that'll help us understand roadmap directions of what we need to do. But I think we're the vehicle. We want to remove the complexity. And the only way we're going to do that is to do it along with the ones that are on this podcast with us today.
Rich, as we wrap up here, and I'll ask the rest of you guys the same question is, but from Sony's perspective, what does success look like? What does success look like as far as this ecosystem partnership goes?
Well, I can say the selfish answer, and that is I have 100% market share of all displays.
There's nothing wrong with that answer.
I mean, that's ultimate success, right? Honestly, I think where success is when you sit down with a customer and you explain the story and what you can do, and they look at you and go, yes, that makes sense. Yes, we need to deploy this, right? To me, that's success. Whether they're buying one screen, they're buying thousands of screens. The fact that we are actually doing what we said we could do, we're listening to customers, pulling that in, and the customer and the end user can see the value to me, that to me is success because they understand and we're able to convey it. I'd also say to me, success really is every time I walk into a customer building and I see a Sony Bravia display and it's working with our alliance partners. I had last week, I was at one of our customers in Chicago and walked into this brand new setup that they did. And first question I asked was which mount it was, which control system. Went down the list about 4 or 5 items. Every single one of them was a Sony partner. And they said they chose them because the fact that they are a Sony partner. That to me is success, right? That the fact that they identified and saw the value in what we're doing, they saw that there's value to their business and their pain points. That's success.
I would say that's a pretty good success. Tom, same question is from AppSpace's perspective. What does success look like in this partnership?
I think if the partnerships work together, I think of it from 3 lenses. Like what would success be for kind of 3 personas, if you will, right? Our goal and the goal of our partnerships that we create is to aid in this goal of a consumerized workplace experience. Like we are way far behind right now on what consumer tech looks and feels like in today's day and age compared to what it's like working at a really big company when you walk in the office or you're working from home. And so I think consumerizing that experience, we can't do it on our own, right? We need ecosystem partners to help bring that to life, especially the in-office experience. And so I think if we can do that for employees, I think that that's success. I think if the administrators, so the folks that are listening to this, hopefully listening to this, are tasked with bringing that to life, can do that really easily because the technology they invest in works together. So if there is an issue, the troubleshooting is easy, the device management's easy, setting up the software and the experience is easy. That's success for us. And then finally, from a leadership perspective. So if all of that comes together, it's easy, it's cost effective, and now you get really incredible insights about how employees are actually engaging in your workplace, both remote and at home, traveling and in the office. And now you can make better, well-informed decisions about personnel, about your corporate real estate. Now you suddenly have made a real impact on these organizations and on everyday life for these employees. And I think if we do that as ecosystem partners, again, make it cost effective, scalable, and secure, that's success. And I think that's why we look to partners like Sony and Crestron to make that happen.
All right, Bob?
Yeah, I'm going to say it was funny. Rich started with revenue, right? Revenue is the first thing, but I think this goes to the client, right? Did we satisfy their demand? I think going in and co-selling the solution or co-presenting what it can do, right? I can't speak on behalf of Sony. I'll call somebody from Sony to say, we need to walk into the client together and let's collectively sell why this works, right? Let's bring in Tom's team and Andrew's team, and let's just explain why these things connect the way they do, right? We spend a lot of time behind the scenes making sure that what you're buying, you're not going to have to reprogram it. You're not going to have to troubleshoot it. So I think for us, when I start seeing case studies that show our collective solutions, when I sponsor an event at any of our partners' events and customers come to us and they see and they ask and they're like, this is fantastic. Like that to me is success. I drive that back to our team, and it's why we standardize on these partnerships in our roadmaps and why we invest what we do. It's the end client. The end client is what drives the success. Otherwise, we don't have the revenue.
All right. Andrew, you have the last word on this. What do you guys at Corbett? Would you just describe success?
From a partnership perspective, and as everybody mentioned, right, it's about the customer. But is the customer getting more value out of Corbett plus Sony plus Crestron than they were getting out of each one of us individually? By coming together as partners, are they getting more value out of the solution that they're buying and they're purchasing and they're putting their name behind to drive whatever executive initiative that they're looking to do? Then we have been successful as partners. And again, especially in this world where the workplace is just changing on an almost daily basis, can we help those organizations and can we lead the way with those organizations, right? Can we listen to our customers? Can we then go back to our partners? Can we then help them do things that they weren't thinking about? Help them drive a workplace that is more consumer centric and has the technology that, younger generations and newer workers are expecting to see in the workplace. If people are going to be asked to come back into the office, right, we need to provide them a differentiated office solution and a differentiated experience. Can we as partners provide that? Because we're not, as everybody has said, right, we're not going to be able to provide that on our own. We need to work together as partners to provide a differentiated office space for our customers, and bringing all these partners together and providing that 1 + 1 = 3 solution is really what we're looking for from a partnership perspective.
All right, gentlemen, that'll be a great place to stop. Mr. Rich Ventura, how do people connect with you or Sony, sir?
Easiest way to connect with Sony is Sony Pro. Just go to the Sony website and really connect with all of our people. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on X and everywhere else, but our people are out there at events, and we have lots of road shows and opportunities to connect with Sony people.
All right, very good. Bob, how do people connect with you at Crestron?
Yeah, same way. I'm on LinkedIn, Bob Avalaco. Send me a private message if you want to know more about any of this. Obviously, Crestron.com, and go to our partner section. Look at the partnerships, and there's an inquiry form, and you can come in that way, and it'll land on my desk as well.
Andrew?
As with everyone, you can find me on LinkedIn, and for Corbett, just go to gocorbett.com.
And Tom, last but not least, how do people connect with you or AppSpace?
Yeah, you can find me on MySpace. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, you know what? I wouldn't put it past anybody.
You never know. So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I would follow AppSpace on LinkedIn. We have a really strong social media presence. Some of it is kind of goofy. Some of it is actually helpful. So I'd follow AppSpace on LinkedIn, and of course you can go to appspace.com.
There's a joke there about MySpace, AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, ICQ, and all sorts of other ones. But let's not do that. For me, for Tim Albright, go by our website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others, all that and more, at AVNation.tv. It's AVNation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.